So, welcome everybody to my session. I'm Thomas Meyer. I'm a so-called cloud solution architect at Microsoft, and I've been for Microsoft now for I guess more than 3.5 years, mainly on the topic Exchange and Exchange Online. And today I want to present you some troubleshooting tools and how to use them. So, what we as cloud solution architects use in the field to troubleshoot customer environments, to troubleshoot customer issues, and so on. Let me first tell you something about the session. This session is, as you may know, or as you may heard, a part 2 session. So if you missed the first part, which was presented by the great David Paulson and Lukas Sassel today in the morning, just go ahead and watch the recording later on. I also want to recommend these two other sessions, Ask the Expert from the Exchange team, if you missed it today morning, and later on, or better tomorrow, the Troubleshooting Exchange Server Performance Issues by David Paulson. So let's start into one big tool, and I would like to start with the Fiddler. So what is Fiddler? For what could you use Fiddler, and why it's so important for this stuff we are doing with Fiddler? Fiddler is a general so-called web proxy. It is used to analyze TLS traffic, and as all of you or a lot of you guys know, we want to encrypt all the traffic. So this is on one side quite good. So the traffic between the exchange and the client, between exchange servers, it's encrypted, so nobody can intercept them or can have a look. But on the other side, it makes us a little bit more difficult for us to troubleshoot something. So if something goes wrong, if a misconfiguration is there, you have some issues to get and know, okay, what's going on between my client and my exchange server or otherwise around. So for this, you can use a web proxy like Fiddler. And today I want to present or want to tell you something about the general concept of Fiddler, how you can use it, or what it is used for. And then I want to present 3 add-ins. And last but not least, I would like to say something about the so-called extended protection feature from Exchange. Yeah, so because if we just released the extended protection feature with the August security update, you all know there is some slightly change or some slight impact on Fiddler. So how you could still use Fiddler with the extended protection, because in general and normally we were trying to avoid such interception with these extended protection. But there is a small trick I want to show you today for Fiddler, so you can use Fiddler, continue using Fiddler with the extended protection. First of all, what is Fiddler and what is the Fiddler installation, right? So where can you get Fiddler? Fiddler is a free tool from the company Telerik. You can download it via the link which I'm providing you here in the presentation. Here you can see an overview of Fiddler. This first looks quite overwhelming. Don't hesitate. I will get to these 3 areas a little bit later on and tell you something about the overview. One important step to mention is we trying to intercept TLS traffic. So for that reason, of course, we have certificates and we need to act as man in the middle. And to act as a man in the middle, of course, we need to change something or configure Fiddler correctly. This is done via the HTTPS setting. So we need to allow Fiddler decrypt the HTTPS setting. You can see here the installation progress, but don't worry, I will later show you this also on the demo, so you see it in real life. Yeah, this is just for demonstration or just for impression purpose. Here you can see the Fiddler overview window. So when you start Fiddler, the window you see this window. It looks in 3 main areas. On the left side, you see the so-called captured connections and requests. So everything which is captured via Fiddler from the network interface you see here. Yeah, you have this area where you see on the left the number of the number of connections. In the middle area, you see whether it's the host or whether it's the post or a get. Then you see more in the middle the host and the address name, and on the right side you see the IP address and the size of the request, for example. On the right side, these light blue window, it's the so-called inspector tabs. Yeah, what an inspector is, I will explain also in the demo a little bit later. These inspectors can have different functions which you can use them to analyze or the request. Yeah, and later on you see the content view. So when you get it or when you make a request to a website, the website is mostly publishing some information back to you. Yeah, for example, you make a post request to the website, and you get an answer from the web server, and this answer you can inspect in the content view. So what are these extensions I just talked about? The first extension is the so-called Exchange Online extension. You can download it via the link. What is it? Is this an MSI file which provides all of the necessary files in one package? So you just need to install it via the MSI. It's quite common, I guess, to use the MSI file. You can also use it to deploy it via some software deployment, and later on it can be used. How it's going to be used, I will show you also in the demo part after the 4 slides. Here you see the example. So you see it in the red area on the right upper right side. You get a new tab there. Yeah. So, and in this tab you get some additional information. The guy or the people of you who use Fiddler sometimes will now notice that there is some green and red color in there. Yes, this green and red color highlighting comes also from the extension. We will have a look on that. The second extension I would like to show you in a few minutes is the so-called MAPI extension. That's quite hard stuff. Yeah, you can also download it via GitHub. The installation works a bit different than these from the Exchange Online extension. So it's not an MSI file which you just can double click. No, you need to download the DLL files manually and copy them into the Fiddler install the inspector folder. After you copied them, you need to restart Fiddler. And here you see an example of that. We will have also a talk about this MAPI extension later on, although keep in mind this MAPI extension is quite extensive and quite deep technical. Yeah, so it can help to use and to get a clue what's happening between Outlook and Exchange server, but you need some further knowledge about the MAPI protocol. And the last thing, as I said, last but not least, the Exchange extended protection. So for the Exchange extended protection, we need to customize these Fiddler rules. Yeah, you can Fiddler, it's quite basic and you can modify it a lot. And the Fiddler stuff is where you can insert a rule. And this rule is presented here. It's not that complicated. We will see how you paste this Fiddler rule, and then you can go to the Exchange. You can also decrypt and analyze traffic which is communicated between an Exchange server which has enabled extended protection. So that's the point where I would like to start with the demo part. And I hope you can see my screen here in a minute. So here you can see a normal client, and this normal client is just a client which I'm hosting, and it's just installed the Fiddler, so it's a brand fresh Fiddler, yeah, nothing else more. So there comes the first question. And this question asks if you want to use the app container feature, the isolation feature with Windows. In general, we don't need that. So you can say, okay, we don't need to use this setting. Yeah? So we can click this as no. After you click this no, you see Fiddler is starting some connections. As I have nothing or not much opened on the client, there is not much traffic going on. But in case I open up, for example, my Outlook, you will see there goes a lot on the left side here, and you can see, okay, they're trying to get a connection, and after he got a connection, you see some traffic. But as I said, we have some serious issue. You see here it starts with HTTPS, and you see here's HTTP. You see the log in front of the HTTP. So it doesn't help us very much because we don't see anything further, right? So it's completely encrypted, and Fiddler isn't able to say, okay, what's going on here? We just see the target address and nothing further. To get some detailed information, we just close up. We just close Outlook, and then we reconfigure Fiddler. To do this, you just go to Options on Fiddler and click on HTTPS, and now you click the checkbox Decrypt HTTPS. Yeah, as you see, it asks you if you want to recapture it from all processes. You can use this thing, but you can also use this setting, and you can also specify a further setting. After this, you see these so-called scary text ahead. Read carefully. Yes, so what means that? As we are intercepting HTTPS, you know this maybe from some load balancing and SSL offloading calls. The same thing as Fiddler the same thing does Fiddler. So we need to install a root certificate. Yes, we can accept that. Here you see the root certificate Fiddler is providing. So later on, you will be able to find the certificate if you say, okay, I'm finished with debugging and I want to remove that. I allow installing this. I also allow installing the trusted root. And after that, Fiddler says, okay, I added your certificate to the machine's root list. Yeah. So, and nothing special happens after that. So we restart Fiddler and we do all the stuff again. Nope. And now we start Outlook again. And we wait a second till Outlook connects successfully. Come on. So, and what happens here is you see some interesting traffic. So just in the second, Fiddler is able to decrypt HTTPS traffic. Yeah, here you can see this. I hope my Outlook connects in a few seconds. And after he connects, we are able to see some details of the traffic which is being communicated between the Exchange server and the client. Come on, Outlook. Yeah, I guess we are. Okay. So I guess that's the part about the live demo, but I guess I see Outlook Discover and EVS request already, so I can work with that. That looks quite better, right? So that looks quite better. I guess I was just a bit too impatient. So we are now connected, and you see a lot of traffic going on. We see 160, 170, almost 170 connection. We can stop the capture here. And now the interesting part starts here. So you see what is Outlook exactly trying to do. As all of you Exchange guys knows, we are firstly trying with an auto-discover. So we are going to auto-discover and we give a post to auto-discover and say, okay, please give me some information about the configuration. Yeah, so I want to know something about this mailbox. Yeah. After this, Outlook is sending an EWS request, and it's also getting an answer from the server. So you can see, okay, here in the top is the request, and the bottom is the answer. And one interesting part I want to mention is a lot of customers are nowadays asking, okay, what authentication is used? Yeah, I would say it also later on in the session when we finish the Fiddler part and talk about the other tools. There is, yeah, are we using BASIC? Are we using NTLM? Are we using Kerberos? Are we using OAuth or something like that? Fiddler provides you some information about that. And you can see it's so-called in the Mission Angeles accept outsider. Yeah, you can see here the batcher name. Yeah, so batcher means we have a batcher token in there. And this shows us clearly, okay, we use modern OAuth authentication for this request. Yeah, it continues. This continues for the other request. And after we successfully finished the auto-discover request, we going to our MAPI endpoint. Yeah, you see the clear mailbox GUID, and we have our MAPI communication. Yeah. So after this MAPI communication, we won't get any further because this is MAPI and we don't have any insight in MAPI. But what we can also can see here, it still continues with Badger and OAuth authentication. So let's start with these two extensions. So to install these extensions, I just close Fiddler. I go to the Fiddler install here. You can find it here. Yeah, so it can be found under app data. Enter correctly. And then you go to local programs and Fiddler. And don't get irritated. There is a folder called plugins, but we don't use it for the moment. What we are interested in is the inspector. And the first inspector I wanted to install is the Exchange Online inspector. So I just run the installation. Yes, run anyway. After this, you see there are a lot of files appearing in our inspector directory, but don't get confused. Yeah, just keep it. And to speed up the installation progress, I also copy the MAPI HTTP extension. Yeah, so that's the second one. It consists of two DDL files. One is the so-called MAPI Fiddler Inspector. The other is FSS HTTP Punt. Fiddler Inspector, you can copy both of them also into the install directory like this. And after that, you just start Fiddler again. As we have installed a very comprehensive add-in, this took a bit time for Fiddler to launch after that. Yeah, come on. Ah, there you go. Nope. So, and we are back in Fiddler. So to get some serious traffic now, I would like to reproduce some traffic. So what about a calendar request? Yeah. So this is fine enough for us to capture some new additional traffic. We see here our again, our lovely MAPI HTTP request. And when we now click on Expector, we see there is something interesting appearing. We have a so-called MAPI extension, and we have the Office 365 extension. Yeah. So we start with the Exchange Online. So everything which is about the Exchange Online add-in, it's the Office 365. Yeah, you see also a menu like here where you can see the documentation and the wiki. And there is one thing to know about these Office 365. This unfortunately doesn't work in the live view of Fiddler. Yeah, so to get this really to work, you need to save the capture file and open the capture file afterwards. And say, okay, and reopen the session afterwards. I don't want to open I just want to open the packet captures. Yes. When did that? So, and after we open the file, you see the screen at red highlighting. So this is all the traffic which the add-in is have noticed or have currently scanned. Yeah, and we see these red things. So in these red things, something is weird going on. Yeah, for example, here's a 401. So this means an access is denied, which now, which leads to, okay, something goes wrong here, but that's not necessarily the case. So of course the cloud always wants an authentication, and so it just says, okay, please authenticate again, and then we provided the token, and with the token we get an 200. Here you see the session data, and the session data help to get you some information about these 065 sessions. So what's going on here? Yeah, so you see what is the session ID, you see the response code, you see also what is the response server, you see the elapsed time. And when we have some bigger requests in this, yeah, we get also some additional information like, I guess we need to go like this one. We should see some additional information. So, yeah, I wanted to go to this. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the interesting thing about here is a lot of customers are explaining or have issues with Office 365 performance. When example you say, okay, my connect to Office 365 is slow. Yeah, I want to troubleshoot that, or I want to get a clue. Is it my connection internet? Is it Microsoft? Is it something in between? This add-in and Fiddler helps you to say, okay, what is the performance? What is going on here? So what time is needed to get the client connected? What is time needed to get the request connected? Yeah. Also, when you have some issues where some actions on Outlook are quite slow, you can get a clue, okay, is it something on my side? Is it something on the Exchange Server backend side? And with these add-in, you are able to get some additional information, quite easy to guess what's going on the request. This add-in helps you to get an overview what is going on with this session or not. The second add-in I wanted to present you is even more technical. A lot of you guys heard about the Meyer protocol. Yeah, so we introduced it with Exchange 2013, and it's our dedicated protocol for communicating between Exchange and Outlook. And if you are interested what's going on the Meyer request, because you are thinking, okay, something weird is happening, with this add-in, you are able to decrypt the Meyer traffic and get a clue, okay, what is the exact command the server is sending to the what is the exact command the client is sending to the server. The good thing about this command is this command works in real time. So I want to show you this in real time, and we should be able to find exactly what's going on. So we restart Fiddler, have a live capture, and now when I create, for example, a new appointment, yes. Like this, then we see we can go into the traffic. Yeah. And see directly what is going on. So yeah, we start again with a normal thing, and when you go, for example, to this request, as it is a bit bigger, yeah, so there's a bit more traffic which is exchanged. Yeah, you can see, okay, he is opening a stream response. So this means Outlook is starting and saying, okay, please, Exchange Server, give me some information, I need some information. For that is the stream process opened. Yeah, and you can see here what's happening inside this Meyer traffic. Yeah, when you have a look further, you will find also the exact command which is leading to our saving or our creation of the appointment. But I guess it's just hiding for the moment. Yeah, no, it could be this one, right? So this is the response. That looks quite good, yes. So that's the exact action which leads to the savage of our appointment. Yeah, you see it's the so-called RPE save change message. So this is when I hit the save button on this message, this one, then this action is got triggered, and it has some information in the payload, as you see here. And here you can see, okay, what's going directly on, what is the exact request on the NAPI level. So that's so far about Fiddler. Yeah, Fiddler helps you to analyze what happens between your client and your Exchange server, especially also in interesting environments with proxy or firewalls. So if you have issues that some connections are working or not working, with Fiddler you can trace down, okay, the whole track between your client and the Office 365 endpoint, and troubleshoot if there goes something weird on. So that's all for Fiddler. Let's have a switch back to our slides. Hopefully you can see the slides again, everybody. And yes, thanks for the thumbs, guys. Yeah, and so let's continue with another great tool which I would like to introduce, or yeah, to be honest, I would not like to introduce it, but to reintroduce it, because that's a tool which is quite common for most of you, and it's quite old. It was a quite good partner in former times. Then I think some of it's get a little bit of sleep, right? So it was not that recognized any longer. But I want to show this tool up again because we developed this tool further. We're still developing this tool, and it is able to provide you some great new insights to Office 365, to Technique, or to Connection. Let's start with the remote connectivity analyzer. I want to show you three things. So the first thing is the Outlook connectivity OAuth. The second thing is the Teams Exchange integration, and the last thing I want to show you quickly is the network test. Let's start. Outlook connectivity OAuth. Yeah, a lot of you already noticed the time we are disabling basic authentication is coming fast. Yeah, there is not even 1 month left. So starting with October 1st, we are disabling basic authentication as connection method for Exchange Online. So you won't be able to connect your Outlook or your email client via basic out. So for this, it's quite crucial that you have moved to modern authentication techniques like hybrid modern authentication or OAuth. Although you might enable this feature in your tenant and in your on-premise environment or hybrid environment, you didn't turn on the switch because it's somehow crucial, and if something goes wrong, you want to test if the connection is working correctly. To do this, we provide you a so-called Outlook connectivity test, which is supporting the modern OAuth protocol. I will show you this in a minute. And currently, this test is also supporting basic, of course, as we are not disabled or turn it off. But keep in mind, this will start shortly after October. We will remove this feature from this Outlook connectivity test. Yeah. A second thing I will show you in a minute is the Teams integration. Often customers want to test if Teams and Exchange works. We all know, okay, Teams is quite crucial. It has the high management attention, and you have the calendar integration. And when we started to roll out Teams, especially in hybrid, a lot of customers struggled if my team integration works as expected. Yes, of course, Teams works online, but can Teams access the calendar? Can we create a Teams meeting via an on-premise mailbox or not? Something like that. We have also provided a Teams test for that, so you can test the Teams integration between Exchange and Teams. Okay. Okay, the slide's working. And the last thing, it's quite underestimated. I'm not sure whether you heard of it. It's the so-called network test with the connectivity and which is connectivity.office.com. That's a quite interesting feature which we provide, or which we introduced, I think, 1.5 years ago, which you are able to troubleshoot your Exchange connectivity between the client and the Exchange online mailbox. So, for example, you have issues that the performance from your Exchange online mailbox is quite poor. This could, the reason for that could be that you, for example, have the so-called false front door. And with this tool, I also want to show you, you are able to get some insights. Okay, which are my connection points in Exchange Online? I am going a good way, or do the traffic, for example, routes completely wrong? Yeah, let's say you are in Europe and you want to host your mailbox in Exchange Online in Amsterdam, but it could be that for some reason the traffic is routed via the States, and that leads to some delay and to some performance issues. And with the Exchange Network Test, you are able to get insights about these front doors. Yeah. So we are switching back to my virtual machine. And let's dig into some of these tools. Hopefully all of you know the short link for the remote connectivity analyzer. Here you see the new, also with the fresh design, the remote connectivity analyzer tool. And although this tool seems to be a bit dusty and old-fashioned, as you see, we added some new features, and we will continue adding some new features. Yeah. I remember a guy asked about in the session of Lucas and David earlier this day, asked about the functionality to troubleshoot some Outlook connectivity issues. For that, we can I could recommend, for example, the Sarah client. So you have a direct link to the Sarah download client, so you always get the newest version of the support and recovery assistant. But today we focus on Exchange features. Yeah, the short link for that should be, I hope it's commonly known, it's rkms/RCA. Yeah, so that's the short link for that. Yeah, just to keep in mention. There are some additional short links if you need some specific features. For example, the message header analyzer, you can also just change the RCA with MHA, so you are directly on the message header analyzer. Yeah. Just to make this tool easy and quickly available for you. As I mentioned, we want to test the Outlook connectivity, and for that we are going to the Outlook connectivity test. I just entered my credentials already to speed up this whole thing a little bit. As you see, my verification was done 30 minutes ago, so I guess I talked at least 30 minutes now. Therefore, that I need to enter a new verification. You can enter a mailbox which is hosted in the Exchange environment. You can see here, it's as my user is the so-called Doctor Who user. Yeah, and I entered the email address of the doctor, and it's like this. Then you can choose which authentication method you want to test, and then you can say, okay, I have want to detect, is my Outlook Discover correctly working, or for example, I know my Outlook Discover is for some reason not correctly working. Then you can put specify some specific settings for that. Yeah, but in my case, my Outlook Discover is completely working. I just entered the captcha code once, and then I click verify. This hinweis, this notice is quite important. It just says that we are getting your credentials, yeah, and we are using these credentials with our cloud service to access your environment. If you don't want to get or leak some credentials to Microsoft, keep in mind, just create a test account, right? So create a demo account, create a test account, give him some password, and use this for testing. After the testing is finished, you can just delete the account. And even if we would do something strange with the credentials, we won't be able to access any longer. So just keep in mind, we need some productive credentials here, otherwise this won't work. And then you can click on test, perform test. This takes a few seconds. It depends on how the test is successful or not. In this case, the test is successful. You can say, okay, I'm interested in to see everything. Yeah, and you see what we are completely doing. We're starting with an auto-discover request, then we're checking a certificate. That's all fine. And after that, we are trying to get the auto-discover response for our exact user. If we're having the auto-discover response, we are trying to do a MAPI connection. Yeah, if you see here, okay, we have the so-called remote host. This would also be working in your case. For example, if you have an on-prem or a hybrid server and you're trying to have published the hybrid server to the internet, you can also test your hybrid server here. Yeah, and after that, he's done an additional check. So first for the auto-discover response, second for the MAPI request. Yeah, and then you see, okay, we are trying to test if we are able to get connect to the mailbox via OAuth and HTTP. And you see here something, the response header. Some interesting information about the response header. I'm not sure whether all of you are familiar with these header information or with these, with this language. Yeah. Also, when you have on-prem, for example, you have your ECP and something goes wrong in your ECP. A lot of customers have this issue when you have bigger farms. Then you say, okay, which of these server now produced my issue? For that, you have the so-called BE server and the FE server. FE stands for front end, BE stands for backend. So the front end server is mainly this server, which is handling your request, yeah, so your authentication. The backend server is mainly this server, which is handling your dedicated request or which is showing you the site. So, for example, if you have issues with over or something like that, and you get an error code 500, click on additional details. Then you have also these headers with XBE server, and you get the exact server which is producing the error, and then you can start continue looking in the IIS logs on these server and doesn't have to worry about, okay, which of my, I don't know, 8 or 20 servers now I'm on, and in which of the 20 servers I have to look in the IIS log. Yeah. As we are continuing the time, I would like to say something about Teams. Here you can test this Exchange team integration. Yeah, it's almost the same via the Exchange server. So if you are providing a team, you can just perform test. Yeah, let's see if the test in this case will work or not. Yeah, in this case, okay, surprise, it works. So the Teams integration is completely working. So what does the test do? It checks whether there is a valid license, whether there is a user, whether the user mailbox is discoverable via the Teams service. So that's required for getting the calendar. Yeah, and later on, it's also testing if you can send a graph request or graph RPE to use Teams to settle, for example, a Teams meeting, set up a Teams meeting or start a meeting. As I said, this feature or this tool works greatly for testing your Teams integration, especially in hybrid. Is the calendar integration working? Yes or no? Just use this tool and troubleshoot if something goes wrong. And the last tool is the so-called network test. Yeah, I'm not sure if somebody of you already used it. It's a quite underestimated tool, in my opinion. It looks quite tiny, but it is, trust me, it is ridiculously powerful. Yeah, so let's start run test. So we want to say, okay, you are allowed to where I am, and then a few things happen. At the same point. So first of all, you see a map of the world. So this shows you where something is hosted and where something is in. Then we give you some explanation about the score. And then there's a file gets downloaded, which seems to be a bit suspicious. But when you scroll a bit here, you see please accept the download, because with this downloaded file, we can get you some further information about that. Yeah, I guess we want to, I just bring up these files. Just give me 1 second. And yeah, during the install of the .NET runtime, just let me explain something about the test. You see here a world, and you see here different icons. And let's start to explain some of these icons. Yeah. When you run the test, you get a detailed information here. So what you said, okay, I was located in Redmond, which is not necessarily correct. but we will go to that point later. Then you see we saw a so-called network ingress location. So this means what is the connection or the nearest point in which my internet is connected to. Then we have the so-called distance. Of course, we're trying to get the distance between these 2 points, and it's about 7,000 kilometers or 4,500 miles. And then you get an explanation if we are thinking this could now, or this gets now impacted by the performance, yes or no. Then later on, you see the exchange front door. This means on which side, on which area on the world you are entering the exchange service. Yeah. So in this case, we are entering exchange front door service in Dublin Co. This seems to fit because we are located via our ISP in Dublin, and for that reason, our front door would be also in Dublin. But now the network connectivity analyzer is recommending something further and says, guess because you are located in Redmond, how about you using a front door in the United States and not in Ireland, right? And these are the information you can get without the download. Now I want to show you what's happening when you are running the download. Yes, I'm sorry for that. I missed the .NET framework, right? Because it just we are running out of time, so I guess won't be able to run this. I'm sorry for that. Just to explain a bit further these great map here. As I said, you have an explanation about these icons here. So you can see the current front door and the recommended front door. Yeah, what we are seeing here is our current front door is in Ireland. Yeah, it's marked red because it's not optimal. You see this for dedicated services. Yeah, so for example, for Exchange or SharePoint or something like that. And you're seeing, okay, we would recommend to using the front door in the United States because we are located in the United States. Yeah. So this tool helps you to get valuable insights about how my network traffic is routing, because often in Office 365, it is able that some of the services are located in, for example, in Ireland, yeah, and some of the servers are not located in Ireland, like OneDrive or SharePoint. That's, for example, located in the United States. And with this tool, you get valuable insights, see how my network traffic is routed, how my network traffic is going. And the best thing about that is we give you a dedicated table or a dedicated example, what would be the best performance and what is yours. So we are comparing the network location when you downloaded the file. We are comparing the performance of your trace with other traces similar in your area. Yeah, so we can give you a comparison if your performance is good or equal to other, or is it poorer, or is it better than other ones? Yeah. The last thing I want to say about this network test is you also get a so-called health status here. So if you asking or wondering if Microsoft has some issues currently, you have the so-called health status map, and you give you some fast insight. Okay, because the European guys are working quite well; they have no issues. But for example, the US guys have some issues, and then you can see on the health map, okay, are there any issues with our services quickly, yeah, or not? Yeah. So far, so good. Let's switch back to the last minute, and let's switch back to the slides. So these slides are the now Q&A. So if you have any questions, and I saw in the area there was some chat about that already. So there were some slides, some questions. So if you have any questions, if you want to know something further, just unmute yourself and ask, and I will try to answer the question. Goodbye. Steve, you mean the log parser studio, or what do you mean? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that would be also some kind of possibility. I'm not sure. Maybe David, Lucas, or Nadia, do we have any other session which is handling Logparser Studio?
No, I don't think so. We have any other session on that one, but I duly noted. We will make sure that we include Logparser and Logparser Studio in the future sessions.
So thank you so far, all of you guys, for the attendance. And have a great day, or a great day tomorrow for the further sessions, and wishing you a good evening.